The movie kicks off in 1989 after the Losers Club defeats an evil being called Pennywise. The club consists of small kids Bill, Ben, Beverly, Richie, Eddie, Stanley, and Mike. Although they have defeated Pennywise, Beverly tells the group that she had a vision where she saw all of them face Pennywise again as adults. The group makes a blood pact to return to Derry to face Pennywise again if he shows up. We are then taken to the present, 27 years later. A gay couple is at a carnival having a good time. But this stops when they get harassed by a group of thugs. The couple doesn't want any trouble, but the thugs are not ready to let them go. They physically assault the couple and throw one of them into the river and of course run away. The other watches in horror as his boyfriend drowns. But out of nowhere he gets saved from drowning. The other partner was relieved for a bit, but he didn't know the worst was about to happen. Pennywise was the one that pulled him out of the water, and with his teeth he digs right into his chest, killing him. Mike hears about this incident and goes there to see what happened, but he sees a bold message written on the wall with blood. It read, "Come home." We then see what other members of the Losers Club are currently up to. Bill is currently a successful author but often gets criticized for his bad endings. Ben, who was a fat kid, is now a fit and handsome-looking man. He is an architect. Eddie is a risk assessor. Richie is a stand-up comedian. Beverly is a fashion designer married to an abusive husband. And Stanley is a partner in an accounting firm. Ben calls everyone to give them the sad update. At first they don't recognize the voice, but as soon as he tells them where he is calling from, they already know who it is and also could guess why he called them. Could Pennywise be back? Their worst nightmare comes through when Mike tells them to come back. Although they don't want to, they have already made a blood pact and they start heading back, mentally getting ready for the worst. The only person who couldn't make it back was Stanley, as he committed suicide by slitting his wrist right in the bathtub. Stanley did this upon hearing the news about Pennywise's return. The group finally meet in a restaurant and there was no love lost. They joke between themselves, catch up, and also talk about Stanley's absence. They split fortune cookies and they realize that all the words they got could form a sentence. They properly arranged the words and it read, "Guess Stanley couldn't cut it." They immediately knew that Pennywise had found them. To make it worse, some hideous creatures crawl out of the fortune cookies. The group starts bashing the creatures, making everyone around think they are crazy. After that, Beverly contacts Staley's wife. Before the wife talked, Beverly already knew how Stanley died. They head back to the hotel and Mike reveals he called them back. They ask Beverly about how she knew about Stanley's death and she tells them that she witnessed their deaths after seeing the deadlights during her encounter with Pennywise. Mike then tells the group that he had spent years studying it and he knows what they must do to defeat Pennywise. All they had to do was bring different artifacts from their childhood, put them together in a special pottery, and destroy it. So the plan looked simple and very doable. But we are talking about Pennywise here. He is not going to sit back and let them destroy him. So they start. They need to go their separate ways to find their artifact, but first they need to find Stanley's artifact, as he is dead and not present to go look for it himself. They go to a cabin that Ben built when they became friends. They find Stanley's artifact there. It is a shower cap. After retrieving Stanley's, they go their separate ways to find their artifacts. Beverly goes to her old house and she sees an elderly woman, Mrs. Kish. Mrs. Kish invites her in for tea. In the apartment, she sees an old pack of cigarettes and a love letter that was sent to her by Ben, although he thinks Bill wrote it. She sits with the elderly woman to eat and she notices that the woman is acting strange. She also notices what looks like a dying flesh on the woman's chest. As if this isn't creepy enough, she sees a picture of a human-looking Pennywise on the wall. His suspicion is correct as the woman is revealed to be Pennywise. The old woman is then revealed to be Pennywise as she takes on a grotesque and monstrous form that chases Bev out. Before Bev gets away, she sees Pennywise in his human form as Bob Gray, who wears his clown makeup and scratches the red lines on his face to taunt Beverly. Richie, on the other hand, goes to an old arcade where he always went as a kid to get his artifact. His artifact is a token and he picks it up, but before he leaves, Pennywise shows up to torment him, but fortunately for him, he gets away in time. Bill goes to an old antique store for his artifact. He sees his former bicycle that he owned when he was a kid. He buys it back and happily rides off. But just like the others, he meets Pennywise. Pennywise tries to lure him down the sewers. Luckily, he does not completely fall for it. As he gets away from the sewers, he sees a boy named Dan. He realizes that Dan has already met Pennywise and he immediately warns Dan to leave town immediately with his family and never come back. Ben. His artifact was an old yearbook page. He grabs it, but Pennywise troubles him also. Pennywise hunts him in a flashback to when he was still an overweight kid, and Pennywise takes on Ben's form to do this. But like others before him, Ben finds his way out of the situation. Eddie goes back to an old pharmacy where he would pick up his medications. Creepy Mr. Keene and Greta still work there. Eddie gets an inhaler before he is haunted by Pennywise in the form of his own mother being attacked by the leper. Pennywise then decides to play a game with Bill. Bill sees a message that says the fun is just beginning. Bill immediately knows Pennywise is talking about Dan, and he rushes to the carnival to get to Dan before Pennywise, or save him from Pennywise if he has been captured already. Bill follows Dean into a hall of mirrors to save him from Pennywise, but Dean doesn't trust Bill and thinks Bill is crazy. Pennywise finds both of them. Bill does all he can to kick the glass out to save Dean, but Pennywise breaks through first and brutally attacks the boy, blocking Bill's view. Bill can only watch in horror as he fails to save the boy. Bill has now had enough, and he goes back to meet his friends, determined to kill Pennywise once and for all. They all have their artifacts ready. They head to Neibolt House to face off against the Pennywise for the last time. While there, they make it into Pennywise's lair, and with the special pottery, they begin the ritual. Everyone throws in their artifacts, being Beverly's poem, Ben's yearbook page, Richie's token, Eddie's inhaler, the boat that Bill helped make with Georgie, and a rock that Mike recovered from their rock war with the Bowers gang. The deadlights appear and sink into the pottery with the artifacts. The ritual was done, and it looked like they had won, but something unexpected happened. A red balloon appears, and it produces Pennywise. One last showdown, the Losers Club versus Pennywise. This time he appears in the form of a giant spider with his clown face. It is now clear that the ritual did not work. Pennywise now used illusions to split the team up. Eddie and Richie are placed in a similar scene to when they were kids, facing 3 doors labeled scary, very scary, and not scary at all. They see disturbing visions, including a severed body and a monstrous Pomeranian. Meanwhile, Ben and Beverly are separated. Ben is almost buried alive by Pennywise, while Beverly faces haunting illusions in a bathroom stall. Luckily, she overcomes these visions and rescues Ben, realizing he wrote her a poem. Bill, trapped in his basement, faces his guilt over Georgie's death, but ultimately forgives himself, shooting his younger self. After conquering the illusions, they go back to face Pennywise. But in the middle of that, Pennywise impales Eddie. They realize that the only way to defeat Pennywise is to make him feel small. And given that Pennywise is a spider, or at least is in that form, he can make himself small. So they started yelling at it, calling it all sorts of names, calling out its insecurities and showing that they are not scared. Pennywise starts shrinking till it becomes a harmless being. They rip out its heart, ending its life forever. They then rush to save Eddie, but it is too late. He is already dead. They head back to the river where they often spent time when they were kids. As they swim in it, Ben and Beverly kiss. They go back up to their respective cities, and for the first time, Mike also leaves Derry. That's all for the video. Subscribe if you enjoyed it.